Our last speaker is Professor Imrana Qadeer, and she tells me that she will not be using a PowerPoint, so I'll just Professor Imrana Qadeer started her career in medicine as a pediatrician in AIMS, but soon changed to teaching. She has a long experience of teaching and recently retired as a senior professor from the Center for Social Medicine and Community Health in JNU. After that, she has been a professor at CWDS in Delhi, and currently she is a visiting professor with the Center for Science and Development, also based in Delhi. So Professor Qadeer will be now talking about the entire history, the kind of historical perspective of public health in India, from the initial stages and linking it to development as seen in the current context. Professor Qadeer.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the organizers, Shri, Anita, Suresh, and I'm really happy to be here. It's very easy to criticize, but I think what we need is to dialogue, and that's my effort. The complexity and the crisis, I think Amit and Sarojini have very vividly placed before you. We are in a crisis. This country is going through a very difficult phase. And I think it's very important that people who care sit together and talk. However different we might be in our locations and maybe in our thinking. The way I want to approach the question of, as Amit says, it started with universal health care and it has been located in coverage. What does it mean and how it impacts the marginalized? This complexity we can understand only by contextualizing it, and I think Amit did a lot of that, and by using a historical lens. So, in the confusion of this transformation, I would like to begin from the very beginning, and that is, what is my understanding of public health? And I'm very old-fashioned, so I go back to Winslow, and I believe that public health is the science and art of preventing diseases, prolonging life, and promoting physical and mental health through organized efforts. And I would like to add the word democratic efforts at services for total populations, along with the efforts of improving the standards of living for every individual within that population. And therefore, to me, equity, justice, and solidarity. I repeat, equity, justice, and solidarity underlines my notion of public health. Now, public health is a complexity. It's a complexity wherein we use technology. And if you use technology, you have to develop appropriate organizations. So you use organizational strategies. You use epidemiology to define the population's problems. You apply the concepts of public health and Therefore, when you apply it, you also have to take into the structural, economic, cultural, and political issues at any point of time. And hence, public health is a complexity where the social structures and the social backgrounds of providers play a very important role. Now, today, if you look at the history of public health as a discipline has emerged out of practice of ordinary doctors and not the elitist doctors. The ordinary doctors who were in touch with communities, who understood their problems and they tried to find answers to those problems. Not the experts who converted mundane things into their specializations, even when the knowledge was not very well developed. And if you go into history, I don't have time to do that, but it's a very interesting history as to how these two types came up, and Britain, which is the homeland for developing the effort at organized health services, offers us interesting learning as to how the national health services developed and how, in fact, they were also mutated by the conflicts between these two groups of professions. I'm talking about this because there has been a conflict between the practice of clinical medicine and public health all through. And it's interesting because it presents the existential dilemma. There are problems today and you want them resolved, but you also want to change the future. If you resolve the problems today incorrectly, then the future gets affected. And that's the relationship between clinical medicine and public health. Clinical medicine is focused on individuals. It tries to give the best to that individual. It is interventive. Okay, today a lot of clinicians are also practicing preventive promotive medicine in a very limited way through vaccinations and health education. But I believe that in fact clinical medicine is very much a part of public health. It's not outside it. Clinical medicine is one of the major instruments of public health because when clinical medicine is organized in a way that you reach out to a very large population and you cover that large population, that's how you control diseases. That's how you lead to a healthier population. And therefore, I believe that use of technology and its organization in a specific way raises the practice of this individualized clinical medicine to a much higher level wherein it becomes an instrument of changing the history of diseases and therefore a very important part of public health. Now, having said that, I would like to point out that therefore there are two very different perspectives in public health. One which is rooted in the classical public health, wherein diseases were understood as rooted in economic and social conditions. And the other is the one wherein the framework is that diseases are biological phenomena and therefore the way to win over diseases is through technology. So the biomedical vision is where the technological and public health that is based on social and epidemiological perspective tries to look at social structures and distribution of diseases within different social groups, which are very different, as Premji has already shown you, and then says how to set priorities. Will you have priorities on the basis of equity, justice, or you will have priorities on the basis of power? And I think that is the biggest challenge that we face. Unfortunately, up till now, the choices that we have made are primarily on the basis of. So, if I look at it from the historical lens, I would say that it is very important to understand how we have moved from the earlier era of post-independent India, 50s and 60s, where the Nehruvian model tried to make a difference. We tried to introduce land reforms, we tried to create employment, we tried to become self-sufficient, we initiated investment in setting up our own drug industries so that the country doesn't have to be dependent. So many efforts of this kind were made. But very soon, given the peculiar nature of our society, and I'm not going into a social analysis, I expect that you know that we are a stratified, caste-driven society, where power based on economics does wonders if you are in the right path. And very soon the planners discovered that concentration of wealth and monopolization was at work. Many commissions were set up. Sarkar Commission, Zali Committee, Monopoly Inquiry Commission, to find out why and how to stop that. But they couldn't. And our land reforms didn't succeed. Our land taxations in the name of supporting the poor farmer let the rich go. We depended on the trickle-down theory and we decided to wait, and so we waited patiently. And we created the license Raj, which was supposed to protect industries, but it only protected the vested interest. And the result was that by the 70s, there was discontent, there were general strikes, and there was the emergency. 70s is a very interesting history in this country, because on the one hand you see the state making some efforts but not changing the direction of development. The state did talk of minimum needs program, and it was like a dole, giving this much for education, this much for health, but no effort to make any structural changes. And if you look at the sixth plan, and in fact this is the only plan which tells you that in the past 20 years, if you look at inequality, we had not made much progress. The resources remained concentrated in the hands of the elite, and the poor had very little. And this is the only plan which gives you this data at the national level. No other plan later on did the same exercise. Now, the result was what? The result was that we started, the policymakers started finding excuses. So we didn't talk of the failures of land reforms or the failures to accumulate surplus to reinvest in development, but we talked of population growth, and we said this is what is eating into our resources scarcity, and therefore we started reducing inputs in welfare. And if you look at the period from the Murray Committee, it was recommended a 5 to 10% of investment. The first plan, beginning with its around 3%, consistently declined over different plans till we arrived at the 0.9% of the GDP, famous investment lines. And for 3 plans we are being promised that we are going to enhance, we are going to increase. And yet, in reality, we still at 1.9, because the so-called 2.3 is actually 4%, 0.4 of it goes to water and sanitation. So we are still very much where we were. So what I'm saying is that if you look at resources in welfare, especially health, there has been a massive decline. The recent corrections gave more to education, but health was where it was. Then, if you again see, the 50s and the 60s are trying to create institutions, are trying to become self-sufficient. The 70s, the process slows down, and the 80s, you find that our dependence on external help starts increasing. So more and more of aid, more and more of loans, and suddenly World Bank and IMF become key partners in welfare. World Bank, if you look at its history till the 70s, consistently denied projects which came from welfare sectors. But at the end of the 70s, they saw the value of health and they started funding health projects. And soft loans over 80s have been a very important way of correcting our exchange imbalances. And it went to the extent that loans became a way of twisting the arms of national governments and introduction of structural adjustment policies. Now, I'm not going to go into the details, but we all know that health sector reforms became a part of structural adjustment policies, which meant severe cuts. And that's the early 90s when we were hit by plague, we were hit by malaria, we were hit by cholera. And that was the lowest point in our planning process. Then we said open welfare sector, public institutions to private investments. We said there is a lot of inefficiency. And the inefficiencies are that public health system has too many useless people, so cut them out. So we casualized, we threw out a lot of people and we did not take new people. Now, if the way I define public health means an organized effort at taking care of public health problems, then it means that you have to monitor a community, that you have to foresee the coming events, and that means you have to predict whatever comes, be it an epidemic, be it a famine, whatever. And for that you need monitoring, you need preventive interventions, you need reach out programs, and for that you need personnel. So the argument that 70% of it is going into salaries and therefore it is irrelevant was a bunk of mine. But we depended on that and we cut at several levels. There are many ways in which health sector reforms have affected us and many people have written about it. But the essence of it is that it undermined, not only undermined the public sectors, but it also, by doing what Amit said in the morning, that you undermine this, but you shift subsidies because you then started talking of public-private partnerships. Now, I have nothing against partnerships, and that's an issue that I'm going to talk about later. But the way these partnerships happened was that the private sector got the plum. So they wanted the tertiary care, and they got the tertiary care. They wanted subsidies, and they got all kinds of subsidies, land subsidies, personal subsidies, subsidies in the form of import concessions that they got, subsidies in the form of having all of them on various committees and government bodies for accreditation, for giving certificates. I'm told that they couldn't have survived the way they survived without these subsidies. And there are people who have worked on this. There is Raman's work on privatization, which is very interesting. And I draw from there. And while all this is happening, what is happening on the gender scene over the 80s and the 90s is that we were told that adjustments were necessary because growth rates had gone down. Structural adjustment did give us growth after the turn of the century. We did acquire a 9% growth, but as you all know, from 2010 onwards, we are on the decline, and today we are somewhere between 6 and 7%. So we have not gone far. With this growth, has poverty declined? Unfortunately, it has not. And again, it's interesting that there is so much debate on poverty. There are all kinds of economists giving us all kinds of figures. But those of you who go to the villages, who work in the communities, will make your own choice whether the planning commissions, there was a point when the planning commission was striving to get a single-digit figure for poverty in this country. When they didn't succeed, and the 12th plan concedes that it is 35%. But the government's own committees and commissions, like the Saxena Committee, has put it at 45. There are others who give much higher figures. And if you look at the NSS data, the contemporary NSS data, then even if I take the reduced figure of 2,100 calories, we find that people below poverty line are as high as 76% in the rural area and 65% in the urban areas. So there is this strange phenomenon today that we had high growths, but poverty did not respond to it. Even if I concede that 5% of it declined, which I don't, I would say that the stagnation of poverty in itself is very worrisome. So we have to understand what is happening. Why is it that growth is not affecting poverty? And the answer is not very difficult, because you have to see what's happening to wages, what's happening to employment. And wages and employment and livelihoods, which are consistently being denied to people. We are told Naxalites are terrorists, but what is happening in those tribal areas, the way the forests are being handed over for exploitation, the way water bodies are being taken over for exploitation is something that you have to worry. And I talk of these issues because I believe that you cannot talk of public health without talking about the context. And this is the context. And if you say that social determinants are a key component of universal health care, then what is happening to those social determinants? In this process, I think the discipline of public health has been completely mutilated. It has been mutilated because its definition has changed. Today, nobody talks of Winslow's definition. Today, we talk of a definition where we confine ourselves to programs and proposals that provide coverage of medical care. So, the non-medical component of public health has been completely out there from the activity of public health. Even if you look at HLET, which says that because of their concern, they have added the last chapter, which is the 7th chapter on social determinants. If you read that chapter, I think it's extremely inadequate because you have all the beautiful ideas and language, but there is nothing concrete to tell me what is it that they are proposing. Are they defining the need for water in this country, drinking water, and therefore how total water in this country should be managed? Are they defining what are the sanitation needs of this country? And sanitation does not mean only putting toilets. Thanks to Bill Gates, we are today only talking of how to create more toilets. Even toilets, we have no work. If you look at the work which is being done, researches which are being done as to what to do with sanitation facilities, it's extremely limited. I'll come to this also later. So the point that I'm trying to say, this whole notion of social determinants, the policy papers go only up to saying that different departments need to converge and different departments have to do their jobs. But I believe that someone from within public health has to define how much water, drinking water, is everybody's right. How much sanitation and facilities and the nature of facilities are everybody's right. What is happening to housing and what is happening to the housing for the poor. And we have to define these things and demand these things. And are we doing that? So it is not enough to say converge and collaborate. Similarly, we started with basic healthcare in the 50s and 60s. In 78, we were the signatories to Alma-Ata, the most beautiful definition of Alma-Ata, and I would like to point out that though Amit said that universal health care is not the issue and they are only talking about the coverage, but if you look at the HLEG definition of universal health coverage, the definition is what care should have been. And it's a very good definition. But in the actual working of the report, they have completely forgotten their own definition. And you know, the steering committee, which in fact threw the HLEG out into the waste paper bucket, has gone one step on it because it corrected the definition further. The HLEG definition said, irrespective of social status, gender, caste, religion, for Indian citizens. And steering committee criticized it and said it has to be all Indian residents. So you see, we are very good when it comes to doing UHC on paper. We are very good at it. But in practice, we have distorted it. So from basic healthcare, we went into comprehensive healthcare. Comprehensive healthcare, though it was the WHO, it immediately became a term called, and with the World Bank, it started talking about selective healthcare. Even in selective healthcare, they talk of key areas, but in a integrated fashion. At least the primary, secondary, and tertiary levels were linked, whether it was TB, malaria, or MCH. But the later avatars actually reduced even selective primary care to first primary level care. That means do away with secondary and tertiary. So you fragment. It became primary level care, and then it became essential primary health. And essential primary health care was not an epidemiological definition. Essential primary health care was a definition which came from our external experts who were in partnerships with MNCs and developing technologies. So wherever technology was available, that was the area where the hearts were bleeding to help the third world countries. And so we had the MDTs to take care of malaria, to take care of tuberculosis, and to take care of AIDS. So we ourselves are responsible for what is happening to us because we have accepted these definitions. Similarly, we have suddenly become very conscious of efficiency. But the efficiency that I learned of in my public health readings, which meant that you have an effective instrument with the maximum possible coverage at a cost which I can afford. And therefore, my definition of efficiency combined effectivity and profit. But today's definition of efficiency is completely devoid of the notion of coverage and therefore of optimization, but it refers to monetary efficiency. That is not the only efficiency. And cost-benefit analysis was rejected by in the 70s by the economists themselves when they started talking about cost efficiency analysis. And added to that, the non-medical inputs in health are never mentioned when we talk of efficiencies. Similarly, the definitions of systems have been distorted to accommodate this marriage of strange bedfellows, and that is the private and the public sectors. Listen, we have to accept the differences. There is the public sector which has to be service oriented, and there is the private sector where profits cannot be undermined. And therefore, whatever you may say, the differences are there. With the differences, what kind of partnerships? Because partnerships to me mean that you have a shared responsibility, that you have shared objectives, that you follow some common norms to achieve your objectives. Now, if that is the nature of partnership that can be evolved, we experiment with that. But if you look at the experiments in partnerships, they are all one-sided partnerships. Partnerships where resources go from one side to the other. Partnerships wherein, today, the government hospitals are offering not only huge spaces for private diagnostic setups. We are doing a study in West Bengal. So you have the ultrasound and the echo testing, everything And earlier, the private sector was given a space and it would be there. So selling services has become very respected. And given that, the very definition of public good has been transformed. Public good meant that there is no contestability. Everybody can use that access. When you have health service as a system, then there are hundreds of doctors coming and going. They are only not working, but the system never stops. But when you have private providers, they are contestable. Then the ones who have money can have their time, the others don't. So the point that I am trying to make is that insidiously, quietly, the very discipline of public health is threatened from destruction. Because our students will stop thinking in a direction which takes us towards an just and equitable public health system. And this discipline needs to be rebuilt. And it is in that connection that I have come here, because I'm looking for partners. Partners who will appreciate that while surpluses are necessary for the growth of any society, surpluses can also give us profits. But there is a contradiction, because patient and profits have to be balanced. How much will you give to the patient and how much will be the profit? That's a question that any private provider which is trying to be just has to address herself or himself too, and therefore redefine profit as an area of social justice also. When you give here, when you create a healthy population, is that not profit? So why is our definition of profit so dominated by economics? This is a question I want to state here. My second question is that, today corporate social responsibility is the end word. A lot of big institutions are coming in because they are very keen. The government is forcing them to put some of their resources into corporate social responsibilities. Institutions like yours have been in it for a very long time. This is a new trend. So it's very interesting that I worked with India Foundation, which was set up by a few industrialists who out of the future and thought of investing in social sector. Today, that organization is having great difficulty in getting resources because national resources are drying up, international resources are drying up. And today the industrialists are saying we want to have our own little corporate social responsibility setups because they see that also as a way of making more profits. Poverty is a big profit-making enterprise. So everyone is enthusiastic. And I want to leave this question to this community that what is the meaning of corporate social responsibility? Is it the right to demand public-private partnership and start defining the directions of development of the state? Or does it mean responsible and creative performance in business? And if we can answer these questions, then I believe that we can work towards more meaningful partnerships. And did not know how to develop public health systems. And to this have been added the problems of corruption, the problems of penetration of markets, the private practice which has overtaken most public institutions. Today it is very difficult to say that this is a public institution where you can go and you know that you will not be asked for a bribe or a fee or something else. So there is a lot that they need to improve, a lot they need to learn from private sector. The even monetary efficiency they need to learn. And I think the last thing that both these sectors need to learn is about the choices of technology. And I want to take you back into history that in 1930s, the West handled the economic crisis with the help of the idea that the welfare sector itself can become an area of investments. And all of you are familiar with Keynes, and you know that capitalism survived because welfare sector itself became an area of investment. And technology then was a spread, and it reached out to masses. And that's the time when, with the expansion of welfare sectors, a lot of disease control programs happened and communicable diseases to be controlled. So that was one set of choices. The 70s crisis, economic crisis, is being handled in just the opposite way. What we are doing is that in countries which are poor, where the poor cannot afford to buy technologies, we are making the governments stewards. So they have to buy services for the poor, and they can be of any variety, but we are letting the market take over the tertiary sector, and the tertiary sector is going in the high tech. So the profits are in the high tech. The choice of technology is of very sophisticated, very costly technology which only the rich can produce. So in future, will this be the trend? And let me give you just a few examples. Sarojini mentioned infertility. In this country, maternal mortality is a major problem. But of the total mortality, maternal mortality, total mortality amongst women, maternal mortality is not more than 2%. Within this, infertility does not cause death, but it causes a lot of pain and suffering. The incidence of infertility is estimated to be around 8%, 10% maybe. We don't have many correct estimates. There is an ICMR survey, they are sitting on it, they are not giving us the data. Interestingly enough, majority of it is secondary sterility. Primary sterility is very little. Secondary sterility primarily happens because the women give birth in difficult conditions. They don't have access to care, so there is no antenatal, postnatal care, so there are infections. And this primary cause can be handled by comprehensive primary health care services, by good maternal care services. Now, we don't worry about that, but we are trying to treat infertility by using cardiologist practicing in Bombay. She became part of MFC. And her life story was that she said when we use the shunts, the Indian shunts are pretty good. And if we use the Indian shunts, we can reach out to a large number of poor patients. But all her colleagues were laughing at her because she was not using the imported shunts, which are maybe 5 times more costly and they give slightly better results. This friend of mine has left that very eminent institution and now she works elsewhere. And her point is that we have to make technological choices. Do you want efficiency where the services reach to the poor, you are able to create equity and a fair access to services, or do you want to make choices which only give you profits and confine your services to a very small proportion of the population? I will leave you with these thoughts and I hope that there is some discussion.
We have about half an hour for questions and discussion. I would request we can probably take 3 or 4 questions at a time. Is that all right? Yeah, and please let's have pointed questions with very clearly who is the question addressed to, so we can have more questions started.
It's interesting that you began unpacking the phrase of UHs. As you say, the UHs is the flavor of season, so you get this kind of discussions everywhere all around. And fortunately or unfortunately, I have been part of many of these conferences. And I see a trend between 2 different understandings. One is reducing UHG coverage only. Another is UHG is all about everything possible under. You would talk about anything, system strengthening, governance, equity, access, anything which are relevant, which So, but in both these cases, it's there is never an attempt to actually interrogate what it means, to put things in perspective. Same, I mean, assuming it is self-evident. Now, coming from that, I heard one of these eminent public health professors saying that why are we talking about universal health coverage? Not health coverage. He tried to unpack universality of universal health coverage, saying that why we are saying that all this while in India, targeted programs targeted at the poor are actually poor programs. It is underfunded, underfunded. The fact that it is only about the poor, who are the others, and the non-poor or the non-others don't have a stake. So universality actually evokes that connotation, saying that everybody has a stake in public health. Do you think this kind of orientation does it evoke any kind of notion of collective responsibility? Maybe one could join different ways of this kind of how this responsibility is worked out. Maybe something like what Professor Qadeer was saying. We look at the notion of profit, work out the modalities of how to bring public-private together. Not really only viewing say private is private, public is public. So that's one thing. Another is this missing of the social logic. It is certainly in the case of USG is dominated by finance, maybe, commerce, the logic of commerce. But I think this missing of the social logic one does come across in other kinds of debates as well. I mean, as you talk about health system strength is all about technical service delivery. So this kind of missing of the social logic, do you think, does it really point towards a larger crisis that Professor Qadeer is talking about in terms of the disciplinary orientation of public health, which is somewhere debates are actually set and steered by technocrats, kind of public health professionals, for whom maybe this kind of interrogating, putting things in a historical perspective, etc., is both intellectually and politically alternative.
Another question?
First, I just reiterate what Anita said, that it's very enlightening story from Dr. Amit Dasgupta. I have few disagreements as a health economist to some of the arguments you have made, and which I think is very central to the whole story you have narrated and your whole arguments. Now, you started with this catastrophic health payments that if the out-of-pocket health expenditure exceeds a certain percentage of your total consumption expenditure, then you call it catastrophic. So there is something X divided by Y, which is exceeding threshold level, and we term those households as catastrophic households having made catastrophic health payments. Now, the focus throughout this discourse is how to cover that X, but we hardly talked about how to reduce this X. Because as Professor Qadeer pointed out, that we really don't know how much value, how much profit one should have. Now, many of these inflated X is because of the supernormal profits the private sector is making, and when it comes to the government facilities, it's the inefficiency. So there is a lack of governance which is inflating this X. There's a lack of monitoring and regulations which is inflating X for the private sector. And throughout this discourse, I found that there is too much emphasis on the demand side, not the supply side. How to actually empower the people so that they can go to the market and demand their healthcare, especially the poor people who are earlier they're lacking. Now, you talk about this per capita government expenditure on health. I think that blaming the bank and the farm, there are justifications for that, because they influence to a great extent reducing the social sector expenditure, but it also undermines the kind of weakness we have in our internal, in our political system, our internal economy. Otherwise, how do you explain the kind of unregulations of many of these government, central government funds that we observe? So, and again, higher resource allocation always doesn't get translated into the higher outcome. So there is an efficiency aspect that we can increase the allocation, but there is no guarantee that increased allocation will get translated into a better outcome. And there are two minor points just I want to bring to your notice, that I really don't agree as an economist that public sector needs to, the private sector needs to generate its own human resource and should not actually take the advantage of the publicly funded higher educations. Because if each sector has to generate its own resource without depending on the public sector, I don't know what kind of economy we are actually contemplating. This is the same arguments one can talk about the unorganized sectors where it's also private sector, the private education sector where people train in the public universities, they actually they get recruited by the public private institutions. The last point, I said that somewhere you said that 25% of the health expenditure is getting spent on the 3% of the disease burden. Now, is there any logic that we expect that it should be proportional? Because some diseases are actually more expensive to treat than their share in the total disease burden. There are emerging disease which needs more research, more spending, especially the chronic disease which are coming because of the demographic transitions. So, okay. And the third one point is that given the same kind of external influence and the overall country level political and health policy climate, how do you explain the some of the states which are really doing exceptionally well, not only in terms of the health outcomes but also in terms of health outputs, immunization coverage, greater allocations to health sector, for example, Himachal Pradesh, Kerala. So if resource allocation is influenced unduly by some external sources, forces, how do you explain some of the states which are doing well? These are the points I.
So, maybe I think these were very detailed questions. Can we take it in the next round, please? Would you like to answer?
Answer everything. One can also learn from each other. So I'm not trying to answer everything. The first two set of issues that were a incredible way of looking at it, but let us also remember that in fact the notion of universality is almost it's about a century and a half old. And as you would know very well as a public health student and practitioner, that it's the Bismarckian state, the German Bismarckian state, which first introduced the universality. So it's nothing new, and that this universality is being up. I mean, we can sort of talk a lot more about how universal, how the whole concept of universal has been in a way used to promote something which is very different. And in fact, what I was trying to really say is that in the name of universal, what is often promoted is not necessarily universal, because if we are really talking about coverage, it means basically a limited package. It means not comprehensive and hence not universal in that sense again. So there are different layers of how you can really look at universal. Of course, the fact that social logic today is absent. Health system strengthening, I mean, I entirely agree that health systems, the whole discourse on health systems strengthening, and actually the WHO is one of the major institutions responsible for this. See, the WHO for some reason takes pride in calling itself, in quotes, a technical institution, thereby, and there's a reason for that. It is because of pressures from the United States and European countries. The WHO has for long stayed away from anything beyond the narrow confines of technical. And if you convert public health into technical, you have nothing. That is why health system strengthening, when you convert it into technicalities, you are left with just the shell without that. And it is, I would say, it is principally WHO's responsible for transforming health systems into this, and of course, it relates to a much larger issue. Now, the second set of questions first. Thank you very much for listening so carefully. I didn't even know I was saying all those things. So you reminded me of many things that I said. But actually, I mean, I agree with much of what you said, and so I'm really at a loss at the levels of the disagreement. I was talking about catastrophic, for example, in the way it is defined. This is not my opinion. Why it is happening is a different matter. The point is that the fact that catastrophic payments are being made, catastrophic effects because of out-of-pocket expenses, was used, and precisely that's what I said, that the same forces which were responsible for creating a situation where catastrophic expenses were made, turned around and said that now that there are catastrophic expenses, we must do something immediately. So there is no disagreement on that. And much of this was because of the destruction of the public health system and the consequent impact on health care. Demand and supply is something that economists are much better equipped than me to talk about, and I didn't even talk about demand side. I mean, it was not my intent to really talk about demand side and supply side. In fact, if we are really going to do an entire discourse on demand and supply in public health, it requires 2 hours. So it was not even my intent to talk about only that. I mean, one or the other, but you are absolutely right. Both exist. So, of course, we are complicit. It's not the bank and the IMF did not, beyond the point. We always had a choice not to agree. But the point is that this is a consensus that runs across the globe today, which includes the bank, this includes the IMF and various other institutions of this kind. It includes the ruling elite of most countries of the world. So it's not limited to only what the bank and the IMF is telling us. So that's not really the point. The bank or the IMF in terms of typifying a kind of direction in policy which has been followed, in fact, uncritically and often beyond uncritically, actually by saying that this is what is good for us. We do have very eminent economists, I don't need to name them, who believe that this is the way development is going to take place. And fortunately or unfortunately, they are the people who decide the economic future of the country. So there is no sort of again disagreement on that. One small disagreement maybe with unintentional with what you said, if I may express, which is this whole notion of unutilized funds. You see, this whole notion of unutilized funds has been repeatedly used to legitimize reduction in welfare expenditure. And in the health sector, this has been the common refrain. Ever since the NRHM was introduced, this was the common refrain. There is no shortage of money. This is what you hear in the policy. There is no shortage of money, they are not able to spend it. No, you really, as an economist, you really should look at the expenditure trends. For example, in NRHM, and you will see how release of money takes place. How there is an intention to release money at the last moment so that you cannot utilize, so that in your next tranche you can be asked and said that you did not utilize your previous tranche, so we are going to reduce it. There is a method in how underutilization of funds is taking place. In the NRHM, for example, I am talking about the NRHM because something that I have looked at. In the initial years, yes, there was, irrespective of how funds were released, there was underutilization. It was also because you had a system that had not functioned. Since, as Imrana was talking about, since the mid-90s, the system that had been systematically dismantled. So, if you have a rusted Maruti, it takes Maruti 800, it takes some time to get it going. And that is what the initial period of. If you look at the recent figures of utilization, in fact, utilization has improved, and much of the unutilized figures is because of this. That release of funds is done often intentionally in a way so that they remain unused, which does not mean there won't be pockets of inefficiency. That exists everywhere. So we can of course reduce that. But as a political issue, I think this is something that is important to also study, that how underutilization is used in one. It's 25.3%. There was only one study about R&D sheet. It's not a major. It was not about the entire thing, but it's based on a research study that was published in the EPW. The basic point they have been made was not about 25% funding going for 3%. The basic point is that today in Andhra, the R&D program, which is one of the health insurance program, social insurance program that has been studied the most because it was the earliest, and we have much more data about that. So what that study has actually tried to say is that it is unsustainable because it is basically the R&D program, like other social insurance, is about tertiary care and also about a limited package. And a large proportion of the health budget of the state is today going into that while not addressing a very significant risk. So the issue is not about that there has to be a one-to-one causality. That's not the issue at all. And as we all understand that, of course, the amount that you spend on a ORS package will be slightly lower than what you spend on a patented cancer medicine. So that we understand that there will be that. But this is the specific context of the Arvashi program. You see, within states, of course, there is a difference. I mean, one of the things I think is interesting, you talked about Himachal and Kerala. There is another thing that Kerala and Himachal have in common, is that they both states where landlessness is a phenomenon does not exist to a very large extent. Land reforms in the hill states, Himachal, Uttaranchal also does better in some senses. So the hill states have this. So it brings us back to the whole social determinant. It's not just about public policy, it's also about the enabling sort of situations which, and of course, the other thing that I talked about is also that states within our federal polity, to a limited extent, they have an ability to exercise choice, and some states do, some do not. And it is absolutely true that I have actually been to both Himachal and Kerala, and if you really look at the state of the public health system, it's also about exercising choice, but it's also about other enabling situations which allow the public system to do better. So it's complex, it's not just about policy, just about there being going against the national policy or against the grain of national policy. So,
I have some questions regarding user charges and World Bank funding and putting the riders in the World Bank. When the World Bank funding started also, I was there. Definitely it has brought in a lot of changes in the infrastructure. Initially we used to conduct our sterilization camps in schools and panchayat buildings and all. Such a situation is not there now. It has definitely has resulted in a great impact, at least in Karnataka. Regarding user charges, now a big debate is going on almost. I just confirmed there are no media people here. World Bank, one of the riders was the introduction of the user charges, which we introduced somewhere in 2003 or 4. Even earlier, 2000 we introduced. We ourselves sat and arrived at some charges. It has not been revised since almost more than half a decade. It has never been revised almost. Looking at now, today the argument is there is a lot of pressure to withdraw the user charges. There is a lot of pressure. Stating that there are some hospitals, nobody can dare to enter because inside the charges are so high, even in the public sector. I don't know the name. So they take the example of such hospitals and try to withdraw the user charges. I have worked in a hospital where also I used to charge some, as per the government guidelines, user charges. I will just give an example. If I have to take a chest X-ray, I have to pay 50 rupees. And the BPL and APL is again a big myth. Several people under the BPL were also prepared to pay 50 rupees and take an X-ray. Because if they go outside, it will cost about 300 to 400 rupees. And they, without any coercion or something like that, they used to pay 50 rupees. So a taluk level hospital, I used to generate about 1.6 to 1.75 lakhs every month in terms of user charges. That is an excellent money to run the hospital. And now I am being the director. If somebody asks for about 5,000 rupees budget under some head of account, most of the times it will not be released. It goes to some several tables. By the time he gets this 5,000 rupees, maybe he will be tired and he will not make inquiries about getting this 5,000 rupees. So, the present chief minister, when he was the finance minister, some information he got and he announced on the floor there somebody that all user charges will be with the time. At that time we intervened and we told him how we were having the funding from World Bank and all that, and he convinced him to take back that policy. Long back in history. Today he is the chief minister, who was then the finance minister. So user charges to be withdrawn or totally has to be withdrawn in some of the institutions is a big question. But this gives tremendous flexibility to our officers who are in the public health care system. In fact, there is an internal demand from all of our administrative officers to revise these rates which we have not done. For example, ordinary urine test cost about 5 rupees. So people are prepared to pay for that money. And even then, there is not mandatory. There is a discretion for the administrative officer to waive all these charges. He has a discretion. That's two factors. Then coming to Dr. Sarojini's talk about MMR, IMR, JSY, and all those things. It will take a minimum 1 day debate. All those issues which you have raised. Ours is a state which started with 67% institutional deliveries when NRHM started its implementation 2005. First 2 years, really nothing much has happened in the first 2 years. Obviously, the fund utilization also was very poor. Now we have touched about 97% is our institutional deliveries. The government of India sits at Delhi and makes uniform policies. The all India level institutional deliveries is 52%. They are still trying to evolve formula how to bring this woman to the hospital, institutional deliveries, either public sector or private sector, both. That is the big challenge they are having. Whereas we are having 97%, and picture is entirely different in Tamil Nadu and Kerala also. I'm sure you have the data about these things. Maternal death, yes, we are still having around 187 is our MMR as the latest. Sorry.
Can we just collect questions quickly? Because
We have just about 5 minutes left.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's another. I'll send a mail to you. Also.
Yeah. So
Relaxing that JSY for 2 children is absolutely required, because in Karnataka it is nearly 80% of the beneficiaries comes within the first and second gravida. Subsequently, a very small number is there where the risk is more. For the subsequent delivery, the risk is more. That it is urgently required to revise that.
Thank you. Is there another question? Yes.
So it would be difficult for me to point it to one particular panelist. It's more of as a relatively a fresher in public health field. With the existing problematic state of affairs, or even when we engage, it is more to rather prescribe at a larger level as to why something else should have guided us or should guide us, and the other way is to rather engage with what is there currently and what is a more immediate reality. And I could relate what Sarojini presented as more of what is it today and what are the problems with that. And what I feel is that I find that while everything is important, but I find that the people who work on at both this front, the interface I find very conflicting, and I don't know how to reconcile it. I don't know whether there should be more dialogue between these two, but often when I don't see much interaction at all, and I see that rather it is projected as a contradictory sort of inquiries which are happening. So the one where I think, as you gave us a very broad view of the macro factors that has led us, that has led the shape of the underfunded and under-functioning, whatever, the erosion of the public health systems and what we are facing today. And so probably from your point of view, I think we need to challenge and work on this larger change in these larger policies and issues to probably what, sorry, this is my interpretation, and of course you might not have meant that, to what Sarojini presented as, okay, whatever it is, but we are left today with these insurance mechanisms, with this kind of PPPs, with this kind of poor services, and we are still proposing something more. And what are the problems with the existing structures? Rather than working or trying to sort of reflecting or even taking actions on very macro factors which has led us here. And this is difficult because when I try to engage with the problems of the current organization and then try to sort of work towards improving it, it is often seen as a sort of contradictory to people who rather work on these larger forces which is resulted in the current state of affairs. And there is this constant conflict between that. Is it worthwhile to really engage with today's the government initiated insurance schemes at all? Or we say, no, this is actually a problematic state of affairs in which we have gone into, and let us not waste our time on that, and let us So I don't know, this is the conflict that sort of, it may not be really a conflict, but that's how I face it.
New to this domain, so please forgive my uninformed nature, if at all, of the question. So I start the question with the catastrophic expenditure again that Dr. Amit mentioned, and how he, I'm sorry, I don't have his name, spoke of, how X by Y, and we are looking at the X factor, the expenditure, which is so high because of the supernormal profits. But why we are never talking about the fact that why are people even falling sick? The whole debate is all about, how they spend the primary care, the tertiary care, etc. But we are never talking about the well-being itself. The fact that people are falling sick, as a regular newspaper reader, I keep seeing that, okay, diabetes is going to be the largest killer in India, or heart attacks are going to be, a major issue. And if you look at any of the diseases for which people get treated, it's mostly lifestyle related or their work related. And our OHS norms are pretty slack. Industries continue to pollute, and people working unsafe working environments, which cause all these problems. Sarojini mentioned about BD workers and all that. So why is UNC or any debate not talking about how do we even prevent people from falling sick? So that's my question.
So this was not specific. So
This question that one is talking about the picture that when you are working at ground level and then you are dealing with what is happening, how to be disengaged, to be seen, to be done about it. And see, it depends at what level you are working. Are you working with communities? Are you a provider? Are you at the participant making level? So, depending on at what level you work, or maybe you are connected with those who are intervening at all levels. And I think that's the best way to link with people working at different levels. Because I can tell you that the most dissatisfying thing is working at the policy level. Because policies don't change. So we have to work with people who are at the providing level or who are working with the communities. And I think you get much more satisfaction there. With providers, it's not that in either sector people don't want to give services. But there are very interesting differences. Like we did a small research and we talked to people in the private tertiary sector and we talked to people in the public tertiary sector. And it was very interesting. The private tertiary sector professionals were extremely good, very proficient, doing their work. But if you talk about the problems of the poor, they would say, that's not my responsibility, that's for the state. So they completely disengage. Whereas the people working in the public sector, we were working on the issue of medical tourism. And the public sector professionals were so almost defeated. They are very good people. They are working 24 hours because we were talking to the senior level professionals. And they see the poor patient day in, day out. They know where they are coming from. They know the question that he raised, why they are falling sick. And they know the limits of medicine, and they know the deprivation of public sector. So they know a lot of things, but then they can improve only within the limits that they can. So working with providers is interesting because you can make little differences. And then, as you said, whether insurance is RSPY is there. Now, can you work with the communities and ensure that they get at least the benefit that RFPY is supposed to give them? Because my understanding is that even that is not reached. So you can do that. Then you can start talking to the communities as to what is RSBY. What does 30,000 coverage for admission means? In which good hospital, if you have a heart attack, your bill will be confined to 30,000. And how many illnesses does 30,000 cover? How many people does it cover? And is it adequate? So, we can't resolve things, but we can certainly start communicating, sharing our ideas and the ideas of change at different levels. And I think that's the function that you as young people have. And you say we are not talking of what causes disease. What causes disease? You think the germs cause disease? No. It's hunger that causes disease. It's the filth people live in that cause disease. It's the deprivation of livelihoods, taking away their forests, taking away their land, that causes disease. Which health system can cure these ailments? So please remember that services have a very limited role to play in health. Health is, again I go back to history and I say, health is nothing but politics. So will you engage in politics? If you want to talk of health, then talk of politics. So we are in a very limited way talking about health system and how politics penetrates. And that's why how each one of us must not shirk politics. A responsible citizen must know what kind of politics you are supporting. In advertisement healing, many times we don't know what we are doing. So increasing our own awareness, realizing that poverty is the issue, then engage in the issue of poverty. See how this country is dealing with poverty. And see if you can contribute to that. That would be a wonderful thing for the younger people to live in one day.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, ma'am. It's been a very interesting session. I know we are already 10 minutes over time and there are, I'm sure, a lot more questions, but we have to wind up and the speakers are here.